Recording it right now. Okay. So yes, we can add that, David. That sounds like a good idea. You all agree that this is a good. There we go. You all agree that we could add that item as an elections issue?
Sure.
Sure.
All right.
Yes.
Anything else? Sharon, Jane, anybody that you'd like to add anything to this discussion? Nope.
Nothing comes immediately to mind for me beyond what we've identified so far.
Okay.
Well, you know, I would like to add one thing. I don't have it written up, but it was a source of great frustration during the last election. And that had to do with a manual recount that was held on Orcas. And so I would just like to have a chance to express our frustration at that, our being the Republican Party.
Okay.
I don't have a proposal for it, but if we have time.
All right. Let me just say we added partisan elections. Is that what you meant, David?
Partisan versus nonpartisan, yes, but Tom's suggestion was something different. I assume you heard what he said.
Yeah, regarding the election thing, right? So what was
No, manual
Recount, regarding recount.
right? So what do you want to say? How do you want to say it, Tom?
I would just like to, when the time is right and you invite me to tell, I would just want to tell our story and get your feedback about it.
Okay. So let's take that first one that we talked about, which is the Charter Review Commission elected by district or by county. If you recall, and I don't want to, tilt anything to any position, but if you recall, when we were talking about this, most of us said that really wasn't necessary. What do you all think in our committee here?
Can we go full screen now? Is there a way to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, there you go.
Okay.
So say it again, please, Tony.
The point is that if we look at the first one, which is the Charter Review Commission, voted on by the county, total county, or by our district that we're in, as we have done this last November. Is that something that we want to consider it to be voted for the whole county? Go ahead, David.
I mean, we're okay making criticisms of ideas, right? I mean, we could take a position on this, right? I don't have to be kind of neutral on it. Is that correct?
Sure. Yeah.
I could speak my mind. I think it would be a bad idea to go by county because people on Orcas aren't necessarily going to know anything about people on San Juan, candidates and Lopez, et cetera. And I think the people on our respective islands are the best ones to make a decision on the qualifications of individuals. And the other thing is that if you have it by county, then it almost, if someone goes to the extreme, and I don't think many would, they would need to campaign on other islands.
Right.
And I don't think anybody wants to get involved with that and expect people to have to do that. I think that that just wouldn't work, particularly when you've got 20 or 30 candidates. That would just be unworkable, I would think. So anyway, those are my comments.
Thank you. Jane, please. I got Tom next.
Yeah. I'm gonna put forward the diametrically opposite view on this, and coming from a district that is smaller in population size and a district that, from my observation and experience, even just having run for election for this commission and informed myself about the best way to go about doing that, it brought a greater level of awareness to me as to how important it is who represents the county across this entire commission. And in that regard, in talking to other people, for example, on Lopez, who are quite invested in the election of commissioners to the commission, I found a number of people who had quite an interest in the different commissioners who were running. And from the perspective of at least myself, and I'm more than prepared to speak with some constituents about this, given that we're a smaller district population size, and given that we only have 3 people that represent our district on this commission and are heavily outnumbered to 15 commissioners to 3, I would suggest that there's a significant vested interest on the part of Lopez to be able to inform themselves about, not just Lopez, but the other islands in our district, inform themselves about who would be running for commissioner, and do your own due diligence as someone who can cast a vote, and inform yourself as to who these people are. Additionally, I don't know about anybody else here or the other commissioners, but I mean, you put as much effort as you want into campaigning. And if you're quite interested, then you make the additional effort to use your networks within the county to let people know you're running and let people know who you are. There's always a list, a pamphlet that voters can refer to and to get some background information, contact information. So I would put myself quite squarely in the view that if we as districts are allowed to vote across the county for our council members, I see absolutely no reason why we wouldn't be in a position to do the same for our commissioners.
Okay, thank you. Tom?
Well, I'll tell you my story about sitting at the commissioners table 25 years ago with an Orcas representative, John Evans, myself from San Juan, and Tom Cowan from Lopez. And we would vote on things, and Tom Cowan would have equal power at that table with only 20% of the population. So I'm countering Jane's argument by saying, we strive to have one man, one vote, but it's impossible to make the Lopez district grow in some fashion to accomplish the one man, one vote. So the last CRC, we attempted to mitigate that by giving an appropriate number of commissioners to each district. And so Jane's right, she only has 3, but they only have that percentage of the population. So, that's kind of where I come down on that.
Well, to which I would kind of say, Tom, so what? I'd like to know the argument why a larger population size, means that you should have a greater say. So I'm just interested in being enlightened in that regard.
Don't you believe in legislative districts trying to be equal in population?
Well,
it's a principle across the United States.
Okay, well, I'm just putting forward my view, and I'm happy to get the view of other constituents in my area. Thank you.
Okay.
Let's go to Paul, and then we'll go back to David, unless Sharon has something to say. So let's go around in one first, and then we'll, instead of repeating each other, we'll go to the persons that haven't spoken. Is that okay?
Sure.
Let's go to Paul then.
So in talking about the county council, we know that there's 3 councilmen or council people, and they're representing each of the districts. And we know that there are different populations and different sizes of the districts. However, the way it's set up now, the candidacy has to come from the district. And of course, the eventual result is that there will be 3 on the council and they will have equal say. So the difference in between is that how do they get from candidate to the council is a total vote from the entire county. And the result's going to be the same whether you vote from the district or by the county as a whole. The result will be still the same. So for instance, we're coming up with Lopez here, and they will put forward their candidates. They'll go through the whole process, getting it down to 2 people. We vote either by a district, they themselves can vote for it, or we go to the whole county. Either way, there's going to be a candidate from Lopez who's going to sit on the council. Either way, right? So it would seem to me it would be better for us to revert back to the way it was. Coming from the vote should be coming from Lopez for their candidates. Same thing with Orcas, same thing with San Juan. That the electors should have a say for their candidate on the council, be it Lopez and the other two districts. So that's my take on it.
Just keep in mind that we're actually only dealing with this commission, the CRC commission. We're not talking about.
Oh, we're not talking about the election as a whole?
Correct.
No,
CRC.
Oh, so I was misunderstood.
Yeah, that was the item that was actually given to us as that was brought forward during our discussions a week or two.
Okay. I'll take it back.
All right. David?
Paul, though, may have a point. I think I suggested at one time, and I don't know where it ended up, that we should go back and evaluate the 3 versus 5, 5 versus 3 commissioners to see if it was a success. If 10 years ago, when it was voted in, it achieved since then the desired results. And I don't know why we couldn't add that as another item. That's up to everybody, and I'm not sure if that's for us or one of the other subcommittees. But with regard to the commission, I think Jane, I heard what Jane said, and she had some good points. But I think having elections run or people elected by the entire county rather than by island, it's going to be a deterrent to people running. You're right. Candidates can choose whether to campaign on other islands, network on other islands, whatever. But I think it would be a huge deterrent to anybody running who are going to say, oh my God, I've got to now campaign in the whole county. Oh no, I'm not going to do that. And so I think we cut down the number of people running as a result. Let's see, I have a note here to myself. I got to make sure I understand my own notes. You would end up, Jane, with your situation that your 3 people would be chosen by voters on other islands. They wouldn't be chosen by people on Lopez because you would have whatever it is, only 15% of the registered voters voting. Not the way if you chose them yourself, you'd have 100% of the people voting, choosing or potentially choosing, depending upon whether they have vote or not. So I think it would be self-defeating actually for you. And then this about doing due diligence. People do due diligence on candidates from other islands. I think we have to be realistic. 95%, 98% of the voters are not going to do that. We have in our commission more motivated people, more activist people, more engaged people. And yeah, we're all probably going to do that and did that. But that's not going to happen with the general voting public. And probably, I don't know what the voter turnout is, but if you had a CRC election versus a presidential election, I'm sure you're probably going to get no more than 50% turnout because it's not right up there on the top of the agenda for most voters. So that's my response. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me give you my take on this. And this is the same thing that I mentioned at the larger meeting, which is for a 1-year term, it's going to be very difficult for, especially an unpaid term. It's going to be very difficult for somebody to try and create a large network on the islands and have to campaign on the other islands. What will end up being is that whoever or whichever organization comes out with an endorsements list, that's what people will be voting for because they don't know who Tony Gazelle is on San Juan. They will just go by a list of somebody's that presented them that list because people are not going to do their diligence to investigate the 18 members that they're voting for. The other part of that is that we have about 18,000 inhabitants in the county. So the 18 members are roughly 1,000 per member. So that means Lopez has about 3,000 people, 3 members. Orcas, 6,000 people, 6 members, and so on. San Juan, similarly. I think for this kind of a position, it seems just fair that, or not a burden on the candidates to be able to navigate this whole process. Because I've seen other campaigns that are for countywide elections, like the council. They spend a ton of money. They have to go to a lot of meetings. And, you know, it should be like that because they're representing the whole county. For our group, we're just recommending changes. We're not making the changes because at the end of the day, the public is what's going to vote on the changes. All we're doing is recommending changes. So our voices are equal. All 18 of us are equal on the commission. So not having enough members, like you said, Jane, 15-3, I don't know if that's really an issue for me because all 18 of us have equal voices. Anything else?
I wasn't, okay, thank you for your perspectives. I mean, I wasn't suggesting that Lopez should have more than 3 commissioners, okay, by the way. That wasn't a point I was making. In terms of, you know, a number, having District 1 and District 2 voters being able to vote for District 3 representatives on the commission, you know, far outnumbering the number of Lopez votes for commissioners from Lopez. I take your point, but that's exactly the same situation we already have for county councilors anyway. So it's kind of an irrelevant point in a way. I mean, and I think that people who are interested in voting for Lopesian commissioners will read up on them, maybe ask around about them. I mean, so, you know, for me, I really don't see what, you know, what any district has to lose by being able to vote for commissioners in their district. That's just, so let me be clear, that's just my position. I feel I need to speak with my commissioners from District 3 to talk to them about it. And I also feel I need to speak with some of the constituents who elected me, and the other 2 commissioners in my district may wish to do the same. So I don't want to sound like I'm being strident here because I'm not. And our job is to put our views out there and share our ideas, and then, you know, check in with those that, you know, may have some stake in this. And if, you know, I know Tom Cowan, for example, Tom, I'm happy to chat with Tom about this, get his perspective, Rhea Miller, others as well, and just come back to you with some sense of what others are thinking, that would enable me to say, okay, you know, my sense is that this is kind of where District 3 lands on this. So that's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Very well done. And I guess we can move on to the next item on this, on our list. Is that okay?
Okay.
The next item is the one that Paul proposed, which is section 5.2. Do you have that handy, Paul?
Yeah.
Or
Mhm.
shall can I display it if you?
Oh, sure.
Hold on, please.
Tony, by the way, are you going to do minutes of this meeting?
Yeah, that's why we're recording it. This way I can go listen.
Okay,
Come up
great,
with-
thank you.
Sharon has volunteered to do that.
I'm taking notes.
Oh, you are? Oh, that'd be great. Thank you. That'd be great. Thank you. Here we go. I'm going to share my screen shortly. So this item is, let me clean up my screen. Hold on a second. I did send you this item already. This was basically some language changes. As a Paul, you want to talk about this briefly and tell us what your thinking is?
On 5.20?
Yeah.
So, yeah, when I was going through that, it was apparent to me that we don't have a minimum age for people running for elective office. And I looked at a couple of other charter folks, and they did have a minimum of 18 years old, which is the same age for becoming a registered voter. So I thought I would add that. You never know when you might have a 6th grader who is outstanding and wants to run for council, and we should probably have something minimum in there. So that's the only reason I put it in.
And How about the legislative residency as opposed to,
So residency is okay in terms of people who are representing a particular district, being able to show that they are a resident of that district, which is appropriate. But to call the district as a resident district, to me, in the big picture, when you're looking at the government for San Juan County, there's more to our government other than just residency. And so I'm trying to bring in a word that would to help us to talk about the government of San Juan County, because we have on the other side, which we don't look at in our study now, are about 23 taxing districts that populate our services for our county that we vote to bring these services to. And every year they are obviously, you know, that with a budget, and we support them through our taxes. And so that's one of the reasons why I felt that we should have something more a universal name for our district rather than a residency, call it a legislative district having to do with the government of San Juan County.
got it. Any comment? Go ahead, Jane.
Sorry, I was muted. I just wanted to bring your attention to section 5.30 below section 0.5.20. Section 5.30 is titled Council or County Council Residency Districts. And under the first clause, under 5.30, it reads, the 3 legislative residency districts shall be designated as Residency District 1, Residency District 2, Residency District 3. So Paul, to your point, it's interesting that legislative is included there in the description of the residency districts. And so I'm wondering, given that what that section of the charter suggests is that legislative is understood, but perhaps not clearly clearly defined or placed earlier in, you know, within Article 5 or earlier in the charter. So it seems to me there's scope to include the word legislative, but I don't know if what that says to you. It strikes me that I think that whether or not we take residency out is something we may need to refer to Randy.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, just a thought.
Well noted. Thank you. Anything else on this particular item? Oh, Tom, sorry, Tom, I saw your hand earlier. Tom.
Well, to me, the term legislative district implies a group of people who whose vote is taken as that implies those people vote for things. It has a different meaning to me than residency district. So I think if we change that term to legislative, it's going to confuse people if we keep countywide voting. So I think that the last commission was careful to not use that word to imply that that was a normal legislative district with all the definitions that one normally has. And residency made a clear-cut difference of terminology.
Thank you, Tom. David?
I like Tom's explanation because the legislative district is really the entire county, because the council members are being elected to represent the entire county, not their legislative district. The legislative, if that term is being used to replace residency district, I should say. I mean, the legislative district is the whole county, and that's different, as Tom says, from the qualification of you have to be a resident of a certain geographic area, namely a residency district. So I can see the logic of what Tom and the commission cited last time. But one other thing I wrote in our notes for the things we were going to be talking about, the second thing was changes in the percentage on the ballot. Maybe I wrote down something wrong there, but I didn't realize that this was the second item that we were going to be talking about. Did I miss something about when I said changes in the percentage on the ballot? I must have. I apologize if I,
Well, that was a point that Paul brought out, to change from 3% down to 2%.
okay,
Right?
that's different than this. Okay, I got it.
Yeah,
This
that's
is something different.
referendum.
Okay, so we'll be addressing that separately then.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you, David. I think I tend to, when I was on the school board, I spent a lot of time in Olympia, and I had to get confused about legislative districts and congressional districts. So I think if we change the word to legislative in the county charter, it could get confusing because we are in the 40th legislative district and we are in the 2nd congressional district. And then if we have legislative districts within the county, that could get confusing for me and the rest of the public. So I would suggest us leaving it the way it is as residency districts. And then I do agree with the 18-year as a minimum because that seems reasonable to add. But I would wonder about this district change of the name. So, Jane?
Yeah, it's a bit of a question for Tom then, given that he was on the last commission, and I think I see what he's talking about. Again, if we refer to section 5.3, where it talks about county council residency districts, indeed, the way Tom was describing it just now makes sense. I mean, the sense, if you've got under clause 1B, it says the legislative residency districts are, and then they are outlined as residency district 1, 2, and 3, and their component parts. And so what Tom and also David what they were saying, it makes sense. Yeah, the legislative residency district encompasses the county, and then the residency districts are more specific to those districts 1, 2, and 3. So that makes sense to me.
Yeah. I think it does. I think that's, if I may, that's, it goes throughout the county for other taxing districts. The school district, there are residency districts. The fire departments in the county, there are residency districts for their board. So I think we'll just keep it the way it is and not make that change, if that's okay with you guys. Just my opinion. I'm just trying to throw that in.
well, let
me-
Paul respond.
Well, just let me
Yeah.
say that hearing you talk and on your positions and how you perceive the past time, even in 2012, how we got to where we are today, and the confusion with maybe the other relationships with the state and our local government, it does make sense what I'm hearing you say. So I just put it out there as a proposal, and I also understand where you're coming from. So we'll leave it out.
Paul, did you want to check with Randy anyway? Like just to share with him?
Common sense, I think, prevails here, and I agree with what you're saying, and I'd be happy to draw back that proposal.
All right. Thank you. David?
On the minimum age, I'd like us to consider maybe a different minimum age, maybe 65 years old instead of 18. But, no, or in my case, 75. But in any, actually, what I really am thinking is maybe 21 years old. I don't know. Are voters going to vote for an 18-year-old in the first place? Who doesn't, by definition, is not going to have any experience unless they were, president of the student council or something like that. But that still seems like an awfully young age. I hate to think that I would have been able to manage anything at the age of 18 myself.
David, would you propose 21?
Yeah.
A little more maturity?
A little more maturity. I mean, I'll throw it out there. I would prefer 21. I'm okay with 18 if everybody else wants that, but 21, I think voters may look at that and say, where are these guys coming from? 18 years old? Oh my God. I don't want my 18-year-old son being running for county council.
Well, I ran by this somebody else, and he brought the same thing you did, David. And I think if common folks are coming together, they're going to come up with the same kind of conclusion you did also. So I would be willing to change that to 21.
Yeah. Let's hear what Jane has. Jane?
Paul, you said you looked at a couple of other charters. What were the ages that you found in those other charters?
Well, it was Clark County is where I think I got this from. I think might have been one more or two as well, and they just followed the minimum age for being a voter.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jane. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I don't feel strongly one way or the other. I kind of think it would be interesting to see what the other 6 charters in our state, home rule charter governments have, and then, you know, perhaps we can land on something and then share it with the broader commission, the broader group. But I'm not strident on this one. It'd be interesting to see what the other charters in our state have.
Some of them don't mention any minimum age.
Right.
Oh my God.
I tend to also side with on Jane. I'm not either way, but I got to tell you, when I was on the school board on Orcas Island, some of those 16-year-olds who were running for classroom president and other offices, they're pretty sharp. So I don't, if they're willing to run for office at 18, so more power to them.
That's the way I feel.
Smart kids in this county, but I doubt they're going to hopefully going to college. And but yeah, if we want to put an age, it doesn't matter to me, 18 or 21. I'm good with either one.
Yeah.
All right, what do you think about this? Let me just give you a little update. I think we need to go to 4:55 and then spend the last 5 minutes talk about our next meeting and then adjourn. Is that okay with everybody? So we have another about 20 minutes to discuss the next 2 items, which are I'd like to turn it over to Tom to tell us, what did you mean when you said the observance wasn't that great during the last election, and how can we change the charter to make that a better system?
Well, I just got my fresh copy. It was sent to me by the director of elections, Camelin, a fresh copy of the state law regarding how they're supposed to deal with the poll watchers. And I won't read the whole thing to you, but it says that they're to make every attempt to have the process visible, very vague kind of terms. And in our experience here, because of the size of things, they only allow one person in the dining room size, 2 tables put together where the ballot processors do their work. The first thing that happens when a ballot comes in when the mail pouch is opened is they're stacked, and one of the paid staffers holds the signature. You remember, you sign the outside of the ballot envelope, holds it and compares it to the computer signature online. That is done sometimes with no observation at all. And that is done in a separate room, which is kind of the little alcove that greets you as you come in to the election office. So that's one of the issues, that the observers can't physically get close enough to even see what's going on. The biggest bone, though, was they lay out a schedule of the days that they're going to be processing ballots, and we poll watchers get that schedule, and we set it up and staff it with certain people, and then it gets changed, and then it gets modified, and we don't get a regular notice of those changes. And that same thing happens on the ballot drop box pickup situations on Orcas and Lopez. They're supposed to be at a certain time of the day, and our poll watcher goes there to observe that they all got unloaded properly, and those times get changed. And because of the area problems, it's perhaps understandable. But all we're requesting is that if there's a change, someone call somebody. And I was in charge of our poll watchers this last one, so I carry my phone all the time. And I could have easily accepted a call with 1 hour's notice. I think that's enough notice, and we could have had somebody there to observe the ballot unloading and from the drop boxes. So there's just a bunch of things that didn't work out very well because of the fact that we're on the island and so on. And so the words that we wrote there kind of in general say that that process is supposed to be observable from the time the drop boxes are unloaded to delivery in Friday Harbor to the elections office, to the opening of them. I go over with my camera and I take a picture of the tags on the pouches. I verify that with our poll watcher on Lopez that saw that number, the tag being put on the pouch. So it's fairly complicated. It's simple stuff, but we really felt like the law wasn't honored this last election. And I've been a poll watcher before, and none of these things are new problems. So we're just hoping that San Juan County could put some more detailed language in the election processing, the observing of the election process, and with a thing that says we need to have an hour's notice if there's a change. And that, in the day of cell phones, that seems to be a pretty reasonable request. So I don't know if I was clear about the problem, but that's in a nutshell. That was it. For the scheduled days, everything went fine. We had people there and they observed as best they could, except for the signature verification. I don't think we were ever able to look at that. I don't know how much you all have seen our ballot processing, but like I mentioned, it's about the size of our dining room here that I'm sitting in. It's 3 tables put together, and the paid ballot processors, which they call the A team, are mostly retired citizens that earn, like, I don't know, 12, 15 bucks an hour to come in and process the ballots. They don't do the actual counting. They do the inspection of the ballots to see that everything is clearly filled out. And then they're put in a stack, and the elections staff runs them through the counting machine, the famous counting machines, the computer. And so that process is pretty observable because the room is big enough that one of us can stand in a corner and watch it.
Well, let me interrupt for a second, Tom. I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
They're more clarifying questions. One is, do you have any verbiage that you've come up with that we could consider, number one? And number two, is that something that the charter review can actually have in a document of the charter, or is it something that the elections office as a policy, as a procedure, has to modify? So is this a policy issue or is it a procedural issue?
You know, I've wrestled with that too, Tony, and it's, you know, it's not an issue like the environment or health or planning or anything else like that. It's a procedural issue that this is how they ought to do this procedure, to be detailed and fair about it. So it is kind of a business function of the county.
Yeah. That's what I used to say when I was on the school board. I used to say the school board says we need to have a bus for the school, and the procedure is the bus needs to have 4 tires. But that's not what.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah,
trying to figure
yeah.
out something that the Charter Review Commission can actually deal with. Anyway, I see David's, and then I see Jane after that. David?
Let me just say one more thing. I wrote up my little story, and I presented it to the Canvas board, which you know is the prosecuting attorney, the head of the council, and who else? Mylene. And they listened to my complaint, and the prosecuting attorney assured followed all the rules. End of meeting. So I was frustrated at that, and the other poll watchers are as well.
Right. Thank you, Tom. David?
Yeah, I have been at those, at least preliminarily when they do the accuracy check or something like that, but I haven't been there during the actual election count as Tom has been. But it is an incredibly small room, and I don't think you have the kind of access you might have in a King County or some other place. We have a great big room, but even there you can't observe every one of the processors. Here, it's
Right.
very small. I'm not sure if you can legally look at a signature. A third party could look at a signature to verify a signature. I mean, you would be looking at people's names then, basically. And I'm
Yeah,
not
that's
sure
right.
you could. I'm not sure you're allowed by law to do that. Another thing is that the state has representatives that come to some of these processing events, and they make sure that the proper state regulations are followed. I think there's state minimums. There's state procedures that all the counties have to follow. And probably there have been some reports that say, no, you got to change this, you got to change that. And I'm sure we have done that. I would suggest an agreement with Tony that this being a procedural thing, that maybe the two main political parties and maybe a representative of independent parties maybe could meet with Mylene and Kate, what's her, I can't remember, Camelin. Meet with them and look at the written procedures that are in place today and critique them where necessary. Tom could represent the Republicans. I'm ex-chair of the Democratic Party. I could weigh in for the Democrat and make changes as the, so say 3 people, because we don't want to leave out independents. And come up with something. I don't think it's necessarily something that we would need to or want to put in the charter itself. I think it's too procedural. So, and build into it these kind of things, notifications, that's fine. You should have been notified of any changes.
Yeah, I mean, there should be clarification over the specifics of the process and a procedure for if there are not, if all the poll watchers that are supposed to be there aren't there, how to get somebody there.
Right. Let's go to Jane.
Yeah, just looking at section 5.10 of the Article 5 on elections, and it's titled election procedures. The language of this paragraph right here is rather high level. It refers to the general law that governs the election of both nonpartisan county offices as well as governing elections of the legislative body. Talks about the procedures having to follow the general law. If there were to be anything that we were to consider including in this charter, that's where it would fall. And it strikes me that the specificity of what we're talking about is not something that would go into the charter. Now, again, I would suggest we may want to defer to Randy on this point, but I'm inclined to agree with what David is saying, and Tony and Sharon as well, as strikes me as it is very procedural related. And indeed, if there were those challenges, Tom, then I think, given the role that you were designated to play, if you saw problems and feel that it should be brought up with, the elections office, which is mandated by the state to conduct their role, and also maybe Mylene's audit office, then indeed there should be scope for a conversation about how it transpired, and there should be some openness to looking at those procedures and seeing if they're being properly followed. The other thing I was going to mention was that room you talked about. I did see it, and I saw it because there was live video cam footage of the review of all the envelopes. And so you could actually go on voting day, you could actually go on the county website, and you were able to watch them sitting in that room looking at it on all the envelopes, which I found really surprising. But I mean, they were video recording the workings in that room. So there's a video recording of at least part of the process. You'd need to ask Camelin, or Mylene how much was actually recorded, but I could see those people, those volunteers doing their job live online. It was fascinating.
Thank you. I think it'll be fair for us to maybe make a statement to the larger group to say that there is a concern, and we would maybe ask the elections office to fine tune their procedure and make sure that it's all encompassing. But I still don't think that this is really a charter item per se, Tom, even though I agree with you that there might be issues, but it's more of a something that we can make a statement from our group, from our little group here. We can make a statement of concern to the larger group and just note it on the record. Would that be okay?
Yeah, I hear what you're all saying, and I will attempt to write up that language that suggests that a representative from each party meet with perhaps the canvas board itself and see if we can't make, emergency provisions for emergency notification of people.
Yeah, can you come up with the verbiage for our next meeting? Then we can
Yeah.
check on that. Okay.
Who is on the canvas board? Mylene and Randy, but who else?
The head of the current county council, it was Jamie.
Okay.
Oh, excuse me, it was Bill, the outgoing representative San Juan. He sat on it this time.
All right. Thank you. That was a good discussion. I didn't realize there were that many issues in the county, but good discussion. Thank you for bringing that up. The last item that I have, going from a 3% to 2%, is that still on the table, Paul? Because you mentioned that a little while ago.
Yeah, I did. We had somebody on San Juan here who was attempting to put a initiative out and had a great difficulty trying to come up with enough signatures to get the attention. And with the tremendous growth that we're having in the islands, in the availability for people to take initiative and to get the amount of signatures they need to challenge whatever it is, seems to be a little bit high in my estimate anyway, and felt that we should consider something a little bit lower.
Okay.
It's 3% today.
Yeah.
Let me give you let me just kind of step in for a second, if it's okay. The school district, which is not governed by county charter, it's governed by the state. The school districts have a procedure that if there is something that's coming up, it has to be equal to, well, maybe it's not a school district, maybe it's a state thing. It has to be equal to a certain percent of the last general election registered voters, or excuse me, last general election people that voted, not the registered voters, but people that voted.
Yeah.
I thought that was a threshold that was gettable, but this is kind of going county-wide from 3% county registered voters down to 2% registered voters. Is that what you're saying, or people that actually voted?
No, just the wording is verbiage is it can remain the same. It's just the percentage we're coming down.
Okay, so we have 14,000 registered voters, so 2% would be 2,800 people. Okay, Jane, you're muted, Jane.
Apologies. This issue, a bit of a point of order here. This issue came under initiative and referendum process in our list of issues. And so I think we should check to make sure that this issue is not being discussed already by the initiative and referendum group, because it didn't fall in our elections list of issues.
That's right.
Good point. Good point.
I don't know this is something that we should be diving into if they're already looking into it.
That's actually good timing. Thank you, Jane, because we're at 4:55 and we don't want to go into something that really is not our purview. So we will not table that. We'll just check with the other group to see if that's something they're discussing, and then we can bring it back if we have to. If not, then we can call it off the table. David, just last thing, because we need to go into the next group.
I believe there's 2 or 3 points that we didn't get to. I just want to clarify that. I show that we were going to talk about 5 versus 3 council members and also partisan versus nonpartisan. Did we agree to look at those or not?
Well, they were not on our scope for this meeting, but
right, exactly. But could they be the next time?
Tony, sorry, I did clarify that the 5 to 3 or the 3 to 5 counselors, that is an issue that falls under governance, the governance group. It does not fall under this group.
Okay.
I've
And
already mentioned that in a previous email I sent around.
Okay,
And then similarly, partisan, nonpartisan, we can also discuss that with the larger group to see if that's something they want us to pursue or somebody else can pursue. So we are at 4 or 5 minutes to time. Is this a good time for you all to meet?
yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
So we will go as long as we need to go, but I'm hoping that we can wrap this up within a few meetings because I don't think we have doesn't look like we have major differences on a lot of things. So I think and thank you, Sharon, for stepping in to take some notes. I'm going to listen to the audio sometime this weekend and probably come up with something. But if you have something that you can send to us as draft, that'll be very helpful. Yes, Dave.
Would you just confirm with the chair of the other subcommittees that they indeed are going to be addressing those other issues that Jane just mentioned? I just want to make sure they don't fall between the cracks somewhere.
Right. We will. There's a yes. We will do that.
The number one issue and the issues under the governance group that we're going to be
Okay,
dealing
all
with.
right. All right, right on
But the
time.
partisan, nonpartisan, I haven't seen that one, David. So maybe Tony wants to check with the others about that one, or we take it
Yeah.
to our full commission, because I haven't seen that one.
Okay.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much, and I'm glad that you're on this group because I think it's, even though we don't have a earth-shaking scope, but at least we have some things that we need to work on, and hopefully we'll present to the big group next Wednesday. Thank you all, and I'll see some
Thank
of you this Sunday.
Right, and
Thank you, Tony. Good.
Thanks, Tony. I am going to get back to you guys. I'll circle back to you with some, some input from others, in District 3 on that matter, as I committed to doing so for you. So I'll try, and if you want to report on that issue next Wednesday, hopefully I'll have something to share with you in advance of that, just to get a sense of what folks in District 3 think.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yes, Dave.
I show we have about 60 seconds left. I don't know if we ended the conversation about changing the number of signatures for a ballot initiative, but I would just like to say that I think 3% is low. I think when I see how many votes are needed to recall Jay Inslee, for example, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe Gavin Newsom in California, they're talking about millions of votes, which is not. It's not 3%. It's probably 25% or something like that. And we have to be careful about initiative overload. It's happened in a lot of states that initiative processes have become too easy to initiate. And 2 or 3%, those are, both of them are very, very low numbers. And I question whether or not we need to lower them anymore.
Yeah, and I think Jane made a point earlier. This is something that's not our purview, so I think we should.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just leave it the way it is for right now. Thank
Okay,
you.
so we can cross that out. Okay, I'm sorry, Jane.
Thank
You're
you
good.
all.
Good
So-
fact checker.
Good meeting. We're 1 minute ahead of schedule. Thank you all, and have a great weekend. See you guys.
Thanks,
Okay.
Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank-
Bye.
Everybody. Bye.
See you later. Good job, Tony.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.